G'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I've got my full safety gear on. This is doing the handle and cutting woods that produces a lot of dust and that sort of thing. We've got the blade all nice and taped up, and we're just going to cut any excess off the pins just before we start grinding. It just makes it easier, means you don't have to grind them down and you're not introducing heat in against where the pins are glued straight away. Now we're starting with a 40 grit belt here at a fairly low speed. When you're working with wood, you don't want to go too high a speed. Number one, it puts a lot of dust in the air. Number two, you can tend to burn the wood if you go at a high speed. Now we're just taking away the bulk, and as you can see there, the sparks are starting to come out. That means I'm down at the blade. So just working the way around the knife. Just cleaning everything up as we go around. Now I'm about to start profiling the handle. Now I do it so there's a barrel in the center, which means I grind the top, leaning in, and then the bottom leaning in. Okay, so we start with that top leaning in, and we're just slowly rolling it across and just giving it a round profile. And you can see there very briefly that in the brass it's starting to move the line of the cut back down towards the timber. The timber's a little bit thicker than the brass, and once we get all the way down where the brass and timber meet up, and we start working on the bottom. We want nice smooth edges all the way along, the same size on both sides. And there we go. And then we start on the opposite side. So the tricky part of this is to give some contour to the shape while still trying to keep everything even at the edges. So it's tricky and a lot of handwork. But yeah, you want some contour in that grip. It just feels more natural in the hand. And to me, a barrel shape just suits a kitchen knife. I want to have that, a bit of bulk in the center so the center of my hand grips around it. Okay, after we've shaped up both sides, we're just going to put on the small wheel tool. Just because we've got that little finger choil up in there, it's just easier to work on the small wheel tool because I can get right up into that little curve that I couldn't get on with the bigger wheels. Nice and smooth up in there. Alright, now we're going to change across to a scallop belt, and we can start smoothing out the handle a bit better. So we've gone from the 40 grit on the large belt to the 120 grit, and we're looking at the brass work because that's going to show the cut lines best, and we just want to make sure that we're changing the direction of the cut lines as we go. So because we were grinding up and down, our lines are going up and down, and we want to change the lines to going across the handle. Just working both sides of it, just getting that smoothness to the shape that we can't get on a larger belt. Is much easier to do on a scalloped. And then we're changing across to a 120 grit on the flat belt and just working the flats of the handle. So I do all my flats with a wide belt. It just leaves a nice clean finish to it, and all my curves are done with a scallop belt. Okay, now we've moved to a 220 grit scallop belt. Just, you can see there I'm holding the knife on a wee bit of an angle, just so the direction of the grind just changes that little bit. So I can see it on the copper work. I can also see it on the timber work. But yeah, just want to have a slight change in direction of the grind. And now we're going to a 240 grit flat belt, and once again finish the flats after doing the curves. Just do that just in case when you're doing the curves you wander over a bit. So always curves then flats. Okay, now we're going up to the 400 grit on the scallop belt. Just a quick run through on that one, and we're going back to the original angle, which is straight across the blade. And our last belt here is the 400 grit, just standard wide belt, and just cleaning up the flats, and that will finish up the grinding. Okay, here we are over at the grinder buffer. You can see I've got a little bit of blue tape running around the timber part of the handle. That's a calico wheel that had some compound put on it a long time back. Doesn't need a lot of compound for this. And I'm just buffing out the faces of the brass work. I just want to bring it up nice and polished and clean on that handle face. You can see where that compound was grinding against, left a dark mark. Okay, now we're just changing across to a calico wheel with beeswax on it, and just giving it the initial polish. Just cleaning up any sort of bits where there's some excess there. So we started with the dry wheel first, now we're just putting a little bit of our beeswax mixture on there, and then buffing it through again. These are stabilised handles, so they are impregnated with a resin. They will not soak in too much of the beeswax, but putting some heat on there will get some to penetrate a little bit, not a lot. Alright everyone, there we go. There's our two little custom knives up to the handle finish stage. The thing left to do on them is to make a sheath for them, and these are getting a kydex sheath, so we'll be videoing that, and then sharpen them up, and then they're ready to go out. So, and as you can see, dark colour wood with the copper, great look. And that's a piece of red melee, and the light colour with the brass, again, lovely look. That's a piece of zebrano. Yeah, as you can see on the underside, we're nice and smooth all the way along. The same size on both sides. And again on the back, same thing. Nice, smooth, same size on both sides. But we've got that little bulge in the center there, and that's just so it fits in your hand a little bit better. That bulge just means you've got a little bit of swell in your hand there. It sits in the middle of your hand just nicely. Bit of playing around to learn to do it, but once you get it, you find that your knife feels a lot better in the hand. So, the one question I ask when a new maker puts a question up as to, does it look okay, is, does it feel good in the hand? If it doesn't feel good in the hand, you're not going to enjoy using the knife. And apart from that, it just needs to be sharp. So if it feels good in the hand and it's sharp, it's a knife. It's all good. Alright, thank you very much everyone for watching. Please hit the like, hit the subscribe, and hit that little bell notification so you know when I've got the next one in this series, which is making the kydex sheath, or in any of my other series. Again, thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.